So if you're walking through a forest and you see this, you're going to have some questions. When I saw this on a board game website, I had some questions of my own. Today on Inside Board Games, I am talking to Nicholas Sparkman of Apothecary, Plague Doctors. And that's being published by One First Games, right?
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about that relationship. You're not necessarily a One First Games employee.
Yeah. So, what was it? I think it was about a year ago. I posted a video on my TikTok channel, and I was like, "Hey, I have this game designed. It's really basic prototype. Like, where do I go from here?" And so I asked that to the community, and Josh at One First Games had actually reached out to me on the platform and was like, "Hey, let's chat about it." So I got on a video call with him. I gave him my spiel, and I found out that he was in West Seattle, which at the time was about an hour away from where I lived. So I was like, "Hey, can I come out and show this to you, and can we work on it as a collaborative thing?" And he said, "Yeah." The first couple times we met, it was kind of just like getting the game to a place where we both felt really good about it.
Mm-hmm.
Tweaked a few things, and then after one of the meetings, he was like, "You know what? I would sign this. Let's do it." It's like, "Okay, cool." So they are taking on all of everything that a publisher does. So they paid for art, they paid for X amount, and I am kind of working for a bigger percentage at the end. So like I put a lot more effort into this than you would see with other designers. I didn't just sign off my game. I'm actually actively a part of the process. So I'm doing everything from marketing to, giving my opinion about artwork and whatnot.
Okay. Who, are you the sole designer on this? Or?
We've talked about it back and forth because we both put a lot of time into the game. Me and Josh did. And so I guess I'm taking on the lead designer, and he's my code designer. So on the box, it even has like the main gear, right, is my name, and then his is like a gear with a little gear next to it. And so he's co-design.
Okay. Yeah. All those interesting things that probably have lots of negotiation that people don't really see when they pick up the box and see someone's name on it.
Yeah.
Tell me about the idea for this game. You've probably answered this question a million times, but I'm just wondering, what the genesis was of this game.
So it's so funny because it was literally, I was sitting on the couch. I had been exposed to a lot of the board game design community on TikTok because I had just gotten started. And my wife was having a conversation on the phone with her mom. And she had said that she was talking about this book called Apothecary, and something about that word just like started something in my brain. And so I took a notepad and a pen, and I just jotted down everything that came to mind. And I think I ended up with like 4 pages of notes. And initially this was supposed to be like a fun, ridiculous party game with like a life system. You're trying to poison your opponents. And then we got into like, okay, well, let's throw ingredients in because we have to make these potions, right? Mm-hmm. So initially, like I had like crow's beak and slime a frog and stuff like that. And when I talked to Josh about it, I was like, do we go with this witchy theme or do we go with a historical theme? Because I have a really big love for historical games.
Okay.
Like I really enjoy games that bring like historical education to the table as well. A good example is Korra: Rise of an Empire. Okay. It always ends on the invasion of Persia, and there's a bunch of little events spread out from there. And that was really intriguing to me. And Josh was like, "No, let's do a realistic theme because nobody's done this kind of theme as far as I know before."
I've never seen, and that's what really drew me to it. As soon as I saw the art, I was like, "Oh, this is cool."
Yeah. So I thought about it, and we were like, yeah, let's run with the historical theme. So then started on research, and like every single piece of this game we tried to make as thematically accurate as possible. I'm going to have a historical reference sheet in the back of the rule book with QR codes that take you to the websites I used for my research.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, and initially it was supposed to be a medieval theme. So we were going off of medieval medicine. And while that didn't change a whole lot, we did change the time frame because we found out that the plague doctors didn't become prevalent until later Renaissance era. So we had to tweak it just a little bit for that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, from there it just kind of, so once we got out of the party game mindset, it became, okay, we're going to do a strategy game. It's going to be historically based. We're not going to do anything crazy with like components. It's just going to be cards and maybe a board. And now we're here.
Tell me a little bit about the gameplay. I want to get back to some other things, but since we're here right now, tell me a little bit about the gameplay and what people can expect, in the tabletop experience. You say that it's about a 30-minute game, so it is pretty quick. And I've seen it's for 10 plus and 12 plus. Which was the misprint?
I want to say they were at 14 plus.
Oh,
I could be wrong.
Both of them.
I'm not, I'm not totally sure. Not that there's anything like, I guess the most like graphic thing you could say in the game is you're making poison, and that suggests that you're gonna sell it to somebody that's gonna use it.
Right. But isn't there something about if you say that a game is for kids, you kind of have to like prove it's for kids? I mean, it's kind of like, when you post a YouTube video, it says, is this for kids? And, initial thought might be, well, of course, it's for everybody. But if you say it's for kids, well, okay, now you have to prove that it's,
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that the theme is enough to kind of suggest that it's not like a family game, right? Because you're talking about plague doctors and the Black Death and it just, maybe not.
Although every time I read the tagline, "The Black Death is coming," there's that exclamation point at the end. And I just, in my head, I'm like, "The Black Death is coming!" So.
Yay! I know. Yeah, and we're, like, I'd be lying if I didn't say that, we were also kind of capitalizing on, like, COVID-19 and having just come out of a pandemic, and people are, like, last year it may have been just a little bit too close for comfort. This year people have finally begun healing and all that good stuff. So
right.
But as far as gameplay, essentially you are an apothecary shop owner and you live in a town and you've got customers that are coming in and getting anything from like headache salves to general orders, stuff like that. And you've just received word that the Black Death is coming. Either that be like a raven or, a messenger, anything like that. It's starting to spread across Europe. So everybody's kind of frantic and everybody wants to get out of town. And so you start with ingredients in your hand and actions in your hand. You have what we call the garden, which is a row, open drafting. That's where all the ingredients are. And then you've got the agenda, which is where all your action cards are. And then you've got the order board, and each one has a deck that fills that river, basically. So on your turn, you go through a cultivate phase, which is optional, where you get to manipulate the board a little bit. You can either take a couple ingredient cards and trash them and then bring them back out. We call that tilling the garden. Or you can plan ahead and take an action card, discard that, and replace it. Then you go into your gather phase, where you can take any of the face-up cards that you see in the agenda or the garden. You can take from the top of those decks, or you can go to church and collect a prayer. And the prayer is a wild card, but that costs you 2.
Okay.
So once you take what you want into your hand, then you go into your action and your buy phase. Or not buy phase, but your order completion phase. So then you can play actions from your hand to help you complete orders that are on the board. And once you do that, each one has a point symbol on the card. It comes in front of you. You now have those points. You discard the cards that it took to make that order. Okay. We have poison orders. Obviously, we talked about that a little bit earlier. That are high risk, high reward orders, because as you are playing, events will come out and they will affect the game. One of those events is called guards. And it requires you to lose points if you're caught selling poison, essentially, because you have to pay the guards off to look the other way. So that is kind of our main tension point in the game, other than the player interaction, because it is a little take that. So once you're done buying whatever you can get, completing whatever you can get, and playing enough actions, you then go into your restock phase where you restock everything on the board. The last one being orders, because the order deck is where the events come out. And there's like, okay. I think we have 25 event cards, and you're only using a max of 11 during a game. So every game is going to have different events. Every time you play, it's going to be different. Mm-hmm. And we've got 45 plus order cards.
So these orders are the cures that you're kind of coming up with, and so the higher point value for the more tricky orders that, mm-hmm. that come through.
Yeah, so we've got a point system for our orders. So like regular ingredients that you would find out in the garden, anything that like reflects those ingredients is going to be worth 1 point. Mm-hmm. Anything that requires a prayer is going to be worth 2 points. And then anything with poison or arsenic is our main ingredient for poison, is also going to be worth 2 points. So if you have, an order that takes a snail, snail slime, sage, and a prayer, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 points. And okay. That's how we structured the point system.
So what's the toughest order to fill? I mean, is the Black Death one of the things that you could try to fill or solve?
So the hardest one that we have is the general. We have a few different tiers of the general order card. There's one general order that is literally everything other than arsenic. And then we have a poison order I think it's worth 14 points. That's our highest point card. Ooh, and that is every single ingredient in the game, plus an arsenic.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and you're going to see a mix of all of those. It's never going to just be, the same orders every single game.
Gotcha. Well, that's nice for replayability. Yeah. So yeah. One thing, I have to look at something here. I'm looking down at my notes here, because in a card drafting game, you love to see something like this. It's a card that says supply mishap. Players must pass all cards in their hand to the next player clockwise. Oh, love that. Love to see that in a card drafting game.
No, go ahead.
Is there a lot of that kind of dynamic in the game where you're kind of messing with your opponents?
It's so funny you bring up that card specifically, because that's been a huge debate throughout the design process. A lot of our playtesting, the group that we were playing with mostly was like, I hate it. We don't like it. No, you need to get rid of that. And I was like, no, I don't think you do. And then we playtested it at Gen Con, and everybody who played it loved it, who ended up with that card. So those are the events that come out, and they can do anything from make you swap hands to like, they can make people discard ingredients. They can make you lose all your actions. And each of them is thematic in its own way. So like one of them is quarantine. That's the one that makes you lose the action cards in your hand, because everybody suddenly, you can still fulfill orders, but you can't really go out and do actions.
Right.
And then, your supply mishap, and then you've got rotten supplies. So all of your ingredients are suddenly trash. You got to throw them all out, stuff like that.
It sounds very interesting what you're saying. I like the idea, and I love the art on this game. Maybe it's just the whole, the big snoot on this plague doctor, guy. To think that there really were people like kind of walking around like that is just, it's just really amazing. Where'd the art come from? I mean, do you have an art background? I think you mentioned earlier that the publisher helped get an artist.
Yep. So we worked with 2 artists. The first artist we decided to go in a different direction, and we found Peach Benitez, and she took over. She gave us some samples, and we absolutely loved the direction that she wanted to go in. And it was a little bit truer to what I wanted the art to be, is that like almost like that field journal style.
I was gonna say, I love that, the field journal with the notes and like the drawings. It's very nice.
Like since the beginning, like since we decided it was going to be a historical game, like that was what I envisioned, were these like little details in the background. And it was like, oh, like for snail slime specifically, we looked up like what tools you would use to extract slime from snails. And
Wow.
so those are kind of hidden in the background if you look. And then, we had some feedback on like, oh, you should look up the old names of things and then put those in place of them. And it was like, well, it's, it's a little much for flavor text, but we did do like the Latin underlay. So you have the title of the card and then you've got it in Latin, like in cursive.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, which was a nice little touch. And Peach did a really awesome job with that.
Art has so much to do with these games, but I mean, so does story and theme. What did Shakespeare say? There's only like 6 different plots for stories. But with games, there's only a certain amount of mechanics. But, when you put in a really engaging theme like this one and, you throw in really captivating and well thought out art, that really makes it fun. I played a lot of games where the art has sort of carried the experience.
Yeah, and it is unfortunate like when that happens because it does kind of mess with the experience a little bit. It's like, oh, this is this was reaching, or this is not quite right. And I think like going into the design of it and knowing what exactly we wanted to accomplish, and really asking the question when we would bring something new in to be like, does this make sense in the context? And it was like, well, no. Okay, cool. Then. Let's not add it then.
Sure.
So
how close is this game to what you originally envisioned? I mean, in a perfect world, we're never going to have to make any concessions or anything. But how close is it to you? I know that you love the game. I know that well, we know that. But how close is it to your original vision?
I would say, like at this point, party game aside, right? The initial.
Right. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Once we decided it was going strategic, this is, I would say, probably like 95% of what my initial vision was for what I wanted.
Tell me about the genesis of you kind of getting into board game design. Did you just kind of like fall into it? Is this something that you've always wanted to do? Is this your 500th game that and that you've designed? And it's the only one that's taken, or?
No, it's still kind of wild to me because I know people who have been in the design space for almost a decade, and this was quite literally like my first game.
Okay.
So, and I fully admit that I'm very, very lucky to be at this point with this first game and this idea. And with the opportunity that Josh gave me. And I'm beyond grateful for that. But yeah, so if you had asked me a year and a half ago, like I did enjoy board games and I was starting to collect. Mm-hmm. But board game design didn't happen until I started getting into the creative space with TikTok actually. So there's a few figures, like Mondo Davis is a big one. He has a whole channel that is dedicated to board game designers and tips on how to pitch and tips on what to do and what the process looks like. And so it was kind of like, sitting for 2 hours and just watching all of these little short form videos about every single little aspect. And I had started outlining like a Risk style game, and it things just weren't quite coming out the way that I wanted them to. It's still shelved, but and then once this came up, like this was bam, we've got it,
Well, it's so. You've got that. Everyone who sits down at a table and plays a board game or a tabletop game, whether they admit it or not, has ideas in their head. I could design a game. I could do something better than this. But to be able to come up with something with a good theme and that comes together, looks good, and has that replayability, and it's a 30-minute game, so you can play a lot of that in a night. It just seems like me and my friends, when we start talking about our board game design, I mean it's it's going way past Gloomhaven and all this stuff. And it's like, no way, come on, this is crazy, we're like, we got to find, the short, simple game. And so,
Right.
hats off to you for being able to, find that formula.
Appreciate it. And I did, again, I did not come up with that myself. Like that, a lot of it, like that, so that 5%, right? That 5% is me. Like there's a lot more that I could have thrown into this game
Sure.
and like found reasons to do it. And Josh's guidance and the reason why, he's got that co-designer credit is because he was like, okay, look, but if, you can make this big Euro style card game if you really want to, that's fine. But if you want something that a lot of people can sit down and play, then you've got to streamline. And I mean, everything from the game design, like the board design, which we're finalizing right now, like it's all towards that streamlined process of, okay, how quickly can we get this set up? How quickly can we teach people how to play? And how quickly are they comfortable enough? Because that 30-minute play time is once everybody's comfortable.
Sure.
Which usually only takes about a round or two. Because the beautiful part is because the turns are in stages, you get to watch everybody take those stages as you go.
Sure.
And then if you're the last player, you've usually got it.
Yeah.
So
I much prefer cooperative games, but if I'm going to play a competitive game, which I do play, I love it that it's a little bit faster moving.
Yeah.
I mean, the last thing I want to do is sit there for 4 hours and lose, but if I can sit there for 4 hours and won a few, lost a few, that's a much better experience for me personally.
Right. Yeah, I know my wife has a similar issue to that, but kind of the opposite. So she doesn't like co-op games, specifically like Gloomhaven, because I end up doing the enemies, and so I essentially get 2 turns and she just gets her 1. So I'm like fiddling around and she's like, okay, when is it my turn to go do stuff?
What would you say is something that kind of sets this game apart from other games, maybe in its space?
In its space, I would say the theme in and of itself, right? To find a true, like, not truly unique, right? But to have found an idea for a game that hasn't really been seen,
right?
And then to run with that and make it thematically accurate, almost to a T. We had to take some creative liberties.
Sure.
But like I've got a meeting with our local apothecary shop to go over my orders, and make sure that all of them make sense and that they all like, oh, this is used for this and this and this.
Wow.
Yeah. So, just cool opportunities to just make a game better and be more immersive. And an apothecary shop, a real apothecary shop owner could open it up, play it, and be like, "Oh yeah, look, they got this right."
I love
stuff
that.
Like that.
I love that attention to detail, and I hope that people watching this, know that this is really a labor of love, and there was a lot of time and attention to detail put into this. I mean, not that other game designers aren't doing it as a labor of love, but I just really like the deeper attention to detail and the depth that you have in this.
I think it really stems from like that, like this is a game that I wanted to make. I like everything that I love about games in general is stuffed into this project. I mean, everything from the player interaction, the take that, like I like take that themes. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, and you don't have to play that way, but like I was telling all my playtesters at Gen Con, like it's a lot more fun if you do. So you've got that take that, you've got, options in front of you, and you can look and you can still plan turns ahead, but there's always that chance that somebody can screw you up. I love those dynamics, and I love being able to kind of plan ahead, but also have like a chaotic element where everything I had just gets destroyed before my turn or on my turn. And like, if it's anything that I've learned, it's that just because I like that doesn't mean, everybody else does. But it's also reassuring me that I've made a game that I enjoy and that I am proud of. and that I'm gonna love.
Mm-hmm.
So then you think about marketing and like the marketability of the game, and it's kind of like, well, did you really want to do that? And it's like, well, if they don't like it, they don't, and if they do, then I have my people.
Yeah, I mean, and especially, it being your first one, if this game really takes off and you quit your day job and you're making games, every day for a living, there's probably going to be more and more times where you have to, give more of those concessions for marketing and stuff like that. So, props to you for kind of sticking to your guns and making it what the game you wanted it to be. Because, as any creative person would say, that's really the best, their best work are the ones that are true to themselves.
Yeah, and it is kind of sad how hard it is to find those games in the industry right now. A lot of people bring in ideas and they sell it off and it becomes something completely different, or they're part of the process and the publisher goes, sorry, like this is what we're going with. Thank you for your input, but this is the thing. And I'm really appreciative that hasn't been my experience with this at One First. Like I've been through it every step of the way, and it's been so important, especially as a first game. We might get to a point where I want to just like design a game and toss it away. And I've gotten there a few times with this game where I'm just like, look, I can't look at this anymore. Like you make the decision. He's like, nope, sorry, can't do that.
Oh, right.
Fine. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's really great, but there are also drawbacks to that. Like this is a really awesome game and it's got a really awesome theme, but I'm also doing all of the marketing for it. We haven't spent any money on marketing.
Believe me, after this video drops, you don't have to do any more marketing.
Okay, all right. Well, there it is.
They say if you say it, maybe it'll happen.
Yeah. Every chance that I've gotten to do an interview like this has been really helpful and really great, and I really appreciate it. I made a friend come out with me, and I actually bought a Plague Doctor costume from Amazon. And I made him come out into the woods with me, and we've got these really awesome spots. If you look at my TikTok channel, you'll see the footage that I made and how I kind of weaved it in for like a live action commercial.
Was that the promo reel for the game?
I've done a few of them.
Okay, because I think on the game's page, I did see a YouTube video that was like the promo for the game.
Yeah, so that is from that footage, and that was ultimately like the goal is to give this like narrative story, and then we were hoping to have gameplay, but because we don't have prototypes and not a lot of money for marketing, it kind of just became a show and tell basically.
Yeah, no, I think you kind of nailed it, because that video was really cool. I thought it was really well done. Awesome. I like the voiceover, and just the guy kind of foraging through the forest. He's wearing the outfit. I really kind of think it sets the tone and sets the stage, pretty well.
Awesome. I appreciate that, because that was the goal, and it was like the first time I've had to do something like that, and I was really pleased with how it came out. Yeah, it was kind of still squeezing that footage out as much as I can. I've got a couple more promos that I want to throw out there, but
it's kind of refreshing to see kind of a thematic promo. I've seen a lot of promos with some, really high-end 3D animations for, game movement and stuff like that. And that's great. That's great. But sometimes it's nice to see just, kind of, the total opposite. It's like, let's tell you a story. Let's bring you into this world. And then, you can figure out, find out the gameplay later on.
Yeah. That makes me so happy. If somebody sees the vision, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I kind of do stuff like this in my day job, so I feel you a little bit when it comes to the creative side of doing things. What's the best way for people to connect with your game, to get in on it? Is it funded already? What step is it at?
So we are on GameFound. We are fully funded. It was a pretty low goal. That was like the minimum amount that we needed for manufacturing to get our initial copies. So it's really just going up from there. So on GameFound, Apothecary Plague Doctors. It's one of I think 6 projects going on right now. We are on the main page somehow, which was weird. We're right next to all these really big names that have funded 47, $136,000 or $1 million projects, and we're just like, hey, we made $2,500. Come back your project,
We're here too.
Yeah. So that's it's intimidating, but it is cool to see. So there's that. There's
the website for that. I'll put the links down in the description, but that would be GameFound / Apothecary Plague Doctor.
I think so. Yeah.
I'll look it up and I'll get it down. I'll get it down in there.
But yeah, it's just the GameFound page right now. We don't have a game account for social media or anything like that. It's just me and One First.
And what about could I link to One First Games also? Is that a good way for people to get in touch? Or
yeah, so One First Games through social media. That's Josh. His DMs are always open, and he's more than happy to help out with design questions, with the publishing process, anything like that. He's great at networking. And then for me, it's just my Instagram and my TikTok channel. I'm really responsive. I try to post a video once a day. I've been doing updates on this campaign, and kind of showing the progress of where we're at. So I just did a video yesterday on our board design and getting it ready for TTS, and we're hoping to have the TTS up next week. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it was great talking to you. This, personally to me, this looks like a really, really cool game. I just love the theme, and just, love the art and the time that's gone into it. And I really wish you the best of luck on your the rest of your launch. I know it's a process.
Yeah, well, we got I think it's 27 days left, so we can only go up from here, I'm thinking. But I appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me and the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure, and I want to thank everyone for tuning in to watch this edition of Inside Board Games. We'll see you next time.